filled with the canoeing sounds of, canoes really. They're heading off into the east and down towards the south, this particular herd. It's wonderful to have you with us. Please do talk to us over the course of the next 3 hours or so. You can do that on Twitter using the hashtag Safari Live. Excuse me, slight gastric problem there. Otherwise, you can, of course, use the chat section in the YouTube broadcast. My name is James Henry. There we are. And on camera today we have got Seb. There we go, there's Seb's thumb. And making her directorial debut, world premiere, we have got Faith in the final control, all the way back at Angama Mara where we live. Jamie is also going out, Taylor is also going out, girl power this side except for me, and down at in South Africa, we have got Tristan Dix out as well. Who's filming them? Well, I really have no idea. Okay, so our plan this morning is to basically go towards where you see those floating sort of vessels of romance, I suppose we could call them. There is a place there called Balloon Crossing, unsurprisingly. And that was the last place that Malika, the cheetah, and her cubs were seen, the two males. We are not going back towards the Black Rock Pride today. I'm a bit sad about that, but the reason is that we're just making a few technical changes, and so the signal there is going to be a bit dodgy, and so we're going to go and see if we can find some cheetah, and also birds, and just enjoy and the feeling I get of massive abundance when they're around. I feel nature's abundance when I'm in amongst the herds of lowing white-bearded ganoes. And just quickly, let's look over that way. You can see still quite a lot of cloud in the sky, and a very lovely picture of the ganoes making their way across the clearings. There they go. And I'm hoping today that Seb and I will not have to fight with the rain covers like we have. Basically, we've gone 12 rounds with the rain covers over the last few days, and I'm hoping today will be an exception. I'm going to be very quiet for 10 seconds. And once I've been quiet, we'll go to Tristan 1 second. In fact, I'm going to say to the directors, when you've had enough of the sound of the canoes in the Mara morning, you can go across to Tristan.
I can go from Gary, I can come back again.
Otherwise I'm not going to see jack shit on the screen.
Good morning, and welcome to a crisp, clear, beautiful Djuma game reserve. There's green grass starting to sprout, and well, it is probably going to be a beautiful, beautiful morning. There's not a single cloud in the sky. Now, my name is Tristan. On camera today, I've got a VM, the wildebeest, and he's got his coffee mug out this morning. It is, like I said, a little bit crisp this morning, so it was good weather for a cup of coffee or tea, depending on what your preference is. Now, it is a live interactive show, which means hashtag Safari Live on Twitter or YouTube chat, should you want to get hold of us. I was going to say we could ask you if you had any insights on the dam cam, but unfortunately the dam cam is down, and I just remembered all of that. But never fear, Peter Brat is coming soon to fix the dam cam. I think he's coming on Monday. Is he coming on Monday? Monday, there we go. So dam cam will be up and running on Monday. And there are some animals from East Africa that are a lot more numerous in East Africa and far less so here in South Africa, and that is a wildebeest and a zebra, and they seem to have made friends. A lonely wildebeest and a zebra, which are sitting on the open sort of clearing that runs on the western side of quarantine. So I'll just stop here because it's quite pretty in the long white grass and the early morning light. So there you go, there's wildebeest on the left and zebra on the right, and it seems like it's just the two of them, so they seem to have made friends with one another. And why not? At the end of the day, if you're an animal that is eaten quite a lot by lions and various other things, you would want to make friends with somebody else and make sure that your odds of being eaten are halved. So it's quite common to see these two together. They also occupy similar territories because of their food preferences and the way that they like to eat, and so quite common to see both zebra and wildebeest together. What is quite interesting is generally very seldom we see just one and one. Normally it's a one wildebeest that's attached to a herd of zebra, or one zebra that's attached to a herd of wildebeest. Very seldom will you just get the two of them walking around together. And they're both males, so the zebra and the wildebeest are both boys, and that's probably why we've got this situation. They've both been pushed out of their respective groupings or herds as they've become bigger and stronger, and therefore means that they have to go and live a life of solitude, or they've got to try band together with other males of the same species. But maybe these two have just decided they're going to change the whole code and be friends together. So I think the story of the morning is that we've got to go and turn on Gari Repeater, because poor Gari Repeater is in a sickly condition after our lightning attack the other day, and so there's a few little parts on it that need to be replaced, which are hopefully coming in on Friday, which is tomorrow, I think. So we're going to try and get that sorted out, but we have to go and turn it on for now, and that's where we're going to head to start, and then from there I think I'm going to try and see if I can find Tundi. Yesterday afternoon, while Byron was gallivanting with male lions and Tingana all the way on Chitwa, we went out to try and just give him a hand and see what else we could find for him. And we managed to find Tundi in the Mulawati, and she was looking very good. And so I'm going to try and see if I can find her again. She was on a serious mission yesterday. She was going back and forth. She was going north, south, east, west, all over the place around the Mulawati. So it's going to be quite tough to find her. And also at the moment, the ground is so hard that tracks are not very easy to see. But that's going to be the kind of plan, I think, to start the morning. I think that's where we're going to try and head and try and find her. It would be good to catch up with Tundi again. Now, right, I'm going to, as I say, head off towards the Gari Repeater, and while I do that, I believe Jamie Patterson is also out and about on a beautiful morning in the Masai Mara.
It is indeed a beautiful morning. Good morning to everyone and welcome to the Sunrise Safari. My name is Jamie, and this morning Craig is on camera with me. For the first time in quite a while, actually. Craig and I haven't been out together in a good few days, possibly even a few weeks. And our plan for the morning is, of course, to try and catch up with the lions that we saw yesterday. They were hunting, they were hungry, and we want to go and see if they were successful. But before we do that, I just want to stop and scan the zebra herd, and the reason that I want to do that is there are 2 females, possibly more, within the herd that I've been seeing around here that are basically on the point of giving birth. They are so large, and the one female that I passed the other day is already lactating. In other words, she's probably just days away from giving birth. Now I can't find her. Spot the zebra. Spot the pregnant zebra. Where is she? She's so obvious because she's bulging. And just every single morning that I come down here and every afternoon I stop and I check and see whether there's any brand new foals tottering about. She's quite big. She looks quite big. But not as big as the one that I'm thinking of. So one of our sort of escarpment zebra is due to give birth soon, and I would really love to be there. It's such a special thing to experience. She'd probably have taken herself away from the rest of the herd, just a little bit off to the side, but this is the perfect time to be with an animal that is going to give birth, because generally speaking, obviously they don't have control completely, but usually they give birth in the morning or in the afternoon when the predators are most likely to be sleeping. Of course, once this zebra gives birth to her little foal, it has a tough time ahead of it in terms of the number of predators out here, and the fact that essentially it's got to remain safe and sound. It's got to be able to run from the moment it's walking. But if it does survive, Melissa, you want to know just how long a zebra can live. Between 20 and 30 years in the wild, which is actually quite a long time. So very similar to a horse. They are, of course, part of the same family, and their life expectancy is very similar. And of course, the highest mortality rate will be in their first year That is when they are most vulnerable. And after that, things get a bit more tricky. If it's a female, it will be won by another stallion once she reaches sexual maturity. She'll move away from her natal herd and essentially go off and join another stallion's group. And in that time, she will be the least popular mare. If he happens to have a harem of his own already, the newcomers are always rejected by the harem initially. Look at this little thing. Craig, look at it run. Galloping off towards Mum. Oh, careful. That wasn't Mum. That definitely wasn't Mum. That's Mum. Because mares are not related to each other in a harem, they are not friendly to each other's offspring. And which is why it's not uncommon to see a foal that's made a mistake get kicked or bitten by another female. If it's a male zebra, well, things are also tricky. It'll go off and join a bachelor herd and until it's strong enough to start to fight for its own right to females. That's a little one, but it's not a brand new one. Well, we'll just keep checking in, I think. We'll check in with these zebra. Where are the rest of them? This is not all of them. Let's just go check those ones that are a bit further down that way. Let's go see if she's around there. I think that one that we saw was one of the pregnant females. We sort of become attached to the zebra herds that we see around here. There's a little zebra foal with a black face. I think that might be that one, actually. I thought it was mud, but it might actually be the one I'm thinking of. It's got funny little patches of dark on its cheeks. Very instantly recognizable. Okay, I'm going to check and see whether I can spot the female and see if this is the foal I'm thinking of. Let's go across to Taylor, who's found something much larger.
Yes, it is slightly larger, of course, than not an elephant, than a zebra. We've got a herd of very wet elephants this morning and also a hot air balloon, as well as occasionally the odd giraffe head poking through between the branches of the trees. But isn't that lovely? What a nice way to start the morning. But I suppose I better introduce myself to all of you because there might be some new viewers that are watching today. Good morning, everybody. My name is Taylor, and on camera with me is Ferg. And Ferg was telling me, so he's just saying hello. This is live, this is interactive, hashtag Safari Live on Twitter, or you can chat to us via the YouTube chat. Now, I'm wearing colours today. Look at my blue. Blue is my favourite colour in the whole wide world. It was also laundry day yesterday, and we had lots of rain, and I sent all my jerseys and coats and things to go in for a wash. So this is what I'm left with, my casual wear. Right, you get to see me in blue today. Let's keep going. Also, I have no more shorts, and if it does get too warm. Now, our plan, it has changed only about 7 times in the last half an hour, but basically what's going to happen is we're going to quickly go and have a look for the Sausage Tree Pride, see what they're up to and see if they're around. And then the other thing that we will do is, once we found the Sausage Tree Pride, we'll just be optimistic. Then we're going to go across and do a loop around the river and see if anything's going to come that way. Are you alright there, Ferg? Okay. Just checking. Ferg is fiddling around on that camera just making sure everything was okay. So we're going to cross the bridge and then we start our search. Now, I haven't seen the Sausage Tree Pride for actually quite some time, so I'm looking forward to spending a little bit of time with them and see how they're going, seeing how those cubs have grown, which will be quite nice. I know Jamie and I are both very fond of that sort of pale cub that's very, very feisty. So it would be nice to see if she's still feisty, she's still fighting her siblings, and then see all those wonderful things. So we're going to keep heading there. However, James has not found a cat just yet, but he's found something that should take to the sky shortly.
Hi, Nick.
Okay.
You've come just at the right time. We've got vultures eating what looks like a young wildebeest. How it's died, I'm not sure, but there's a hyena now moving into the scene, attracted by the squabbling, hissing, and anger displayed by these vultures. I'm not going to move. I know that Paul was in the way, sorry, but the hyena's coming in. He will come in now. What I don't want to do, however, is frighten the scene before the hyena makes it. Sabi should come into your picture in the next... Ooh, yeah, you should be able to get him now.
Yeah.
There we go. Here he comes. He's coming to see what's going on here. We've got lappet-faced vultures, Rupel's griffins, white-backed vultures, and, of course, marabou storks. And now Crocutta the hyena. They're not very worried about him, and despite the fact that they are not the most nimble flyers in the world, these vultures... Just listen to the noise. There we go. And now they just watch. They've shut up like naughty school kids who've been interrupted by a teacher. It's not... Yeah, it's a young wildebeest, a yearling in its first migration. Sorry, not a yearling, before yearling. And now it's completely quiet. Here comes another vulture flying in. Isn't that astounding how this hyena has shut them up completely? And now they're just standing around looking morose and miserable. And suddenly, from being enemies, they're showing a little bit of camaraderie. They're thinking to themselves, this isn't right. We should band together and chase this fellow away. What a wonderful scene. We're not very far from where we began our little safari this morning. We just were attracted here by the number of vultures on the ground. And then, I mean, they don't seem to have an enormous meal. Very small wildebeest. Seb said something very interesting to me. He said, you don't see this in South Africa. And I said to him, but we used to. We used to see this kind of thing in South Africa, and I think that the vulture population here, from purely anecdotally, looks very healthy. Whereas down in South Africa, I don't think it's nearly as healthy as this. And it's a reminder to me, every time I see a carcass like this, that we have some work to do in South Africa and the Kruger for our vultures. Can we just have a comms test from the final control quickly, if you don't mind? Oh, we've still got her. Now, Panda Jade, is it Panda Jade? You say, is this hyena a high-ranking one in its society? Chandra Jade. Chandra Jade, it's very difficult to say. I don't know this hyena. I've never seen it before as far as I'm aware. And it's impossible to say whether this hyena is which part of the hierarchy it falls into without seeing it interact with the other members of the clan. I would say, let me just get my binoculars trained on it, that it's a male. And there are a few things we can look at to try and figure that out. The first thing is the condition of the ears. That is quite helpful. When hyenas fight with each other, they often go for the ears. And so higher-ranking individuals often have got less mangled ears than lower-ranking ones. That is not a rule, though, because we have seen some very high-ranking individuals down at Djuma in South Africa that have got horrendously scaffy ears. I would say that this is a big male, as opposed to a big female, which would be much bigger than this. I think this is an adult male. He's in very good condition.
There's another one coming in.
And there's another one coming in. So we might be able to tell now how high-ranking this chap is. Here comes the other one. John Michael, you're wondering what's left after the vultures have finished with this carcass. John, after they've finished with this carcass, you'll basically just have the bones left. The hooded vultures will eventually come in. That is a lower-ranking individual that's just come in. So the one we're looking at is higher-ranking than the one that's just come in. You can see how he or she flapped her backside down onto the ground and looked a little bit reticent. And I think our first one is not actually very hungry. You can see he's absolutely stuffed full. That's not a male, it's a female. She's definitely lactating. She's got cubs. So she's probably going off to meet her cubs. And I suspect the one that just came in is a male. It's a younger hyena, definitely. And remember, all females in the clan outrank all males, just like in human society. Not so said. Exactly. So, John, what we'll have here is a hooded vulture frenzy eventually, and they will pick clean the bones of any last bits of sinew, and then there will just be the bones left over. Sometimes the hyenas eat all the bones. In areas where there isn't quite so much to eat, then they would eat the bones. But you know, these clearings are strewn with skeletons, and so I don't think the hyenas have to eat too much bone here. They might just break open the biggest bones for the marrow, suck that out, and then carry on. They'll leave the ribs and the vertebra and often the skulls intact. I was trying to figure out how this wildebeest died. There's its belly, it's just come out. That's fairly unattractive. I think that this wildebeest was killed by a cheetah, because I think that the back end has been opened up, and that is where a cheetah eats from normally. And I think it could well have been chased off yesterday evening, perhaps by jackals, which in turn have been put to flight by all these vultures, except we'd still see the jackals around here. I don't know. It's only a cheetah I can think of that would have left a carcass like this. Oh, now there's a whiteback going towards the stomach there. Now, the stomach lining that it is eating with long teeth there, or long beak, is very nutritious. But the inside, the bolus, is not so much, and that will be left there. So once they've broken that open, then there's going to be a lot of muck on the ground. This is fantastic stuff. Good grief. Now they've eaten off this lining from that little ball, and now they're going to go back for the rest. A little bit grim, so if you are a sensitive viewer, I'm sorry about that, but this is rather interesting. Okay, I think if I heard correctly, we're going to go down to South Africa and say hello to a very fine fast bowler, Tristan Dix.
Well, thank you very much for that, James. We are now slowly meandering our way around, and we've come across some very interesting little footprints, which is, I think, for Tingana. So Tingana must have done a big territorial patrol after his 2 impala kills were stolen, but that's his tracks walking straight towards us in the golden morning lights. Now, the reason why I know that those are leopard tracks, even from this distance that we're at, is you can see the toes are fairly spread out on those, very rounded toes. Or something like a hyena would find those toes squashed very close together. You'd also find the presence of claws in soft sand like that after the rain that we've had. So those, you can see, have no claws in the front, even from this distance already, and so we know that this is definitely for a male leopard. Now, the only real male leopards that would walk around here would be Mvula or maybe Tingana, and given that these are coming from the eastern side and heading westward straight towards Simamili, I would imagine that this must be for Tingana. Now, the problem with these is that they're probably going to cross out, but are worth a try just to try and find them and see where they go anyway. It's always nice when you've got leopard tracks. They seem fairly fresh, although there's a number of vehicles that have driven over them on this left-hand side, which means that it was prior to the staff coming in this morning. I know Wrexham came in this morning and various other staff, and so it's prior to that, which means that they're not the freshest. They're not from right now. So I would imagine that in all likelihood he's already kind of moved out of the area, but you never know. Maybe he's joined up with Thandi and the two of them are somewhere on the property walking around together. That would be quite nice. Now, James Richard, you were saying you're hoping that our leopard luck continues. Well, I hope so too. It would be nice if we have another spotty cat today. It's been really good since I've been back again. Byron's had great luck with the lions, and then Tingana yesterday afternoon. We had Thandi yesterday afternoon. We had Tingana the afternoon before that. So it's been really nice to see. Now, what I wanted to check was just the road that comes to my left here is Gallagher's shortcut. So I was just wanting to see if there was any tracks for a leopard coming down this road. You can see where the water has drained off and that nobody's actually driven there, but there's no track for that leopard coming from there. Now, if the track had come from the northern side, then it could have been potentially maybe been Mvula. We know he does walk under the power lines and not this sort of section, and we know Djuma was here a few weeks ago as well. So it's just checking out there, but given that the tracks don't come from that side and they come straight from quarantine side, I would imagine that this has to be Tingana that we're trying to go and have a look for. And the reason why I'm quickly heading back closer towards quarantine is because I've got a slow flat, so I'm going to quickly just change that and then I'll start actually tracking Tingana in earnest. Now, while I do that, my good friend James Henry is still with the spotted hyenas all the way in the Masai Mara. Let's jump across back to him and see what they're up to.
Well, it's not just the hyenas, of course, it is all the vultures here. We'll spend another few minutes just enjoying this quite amazing scene of mixed scavenger species from different classes, mammals and birds here. Here comes Quasimodo, and you see him coming in here with his hunched back. That is the lappet-faced vulture, the biggest vulture species that we get here. And that's how they show dominance, basically, by pulling a Quasimodo move across the plains. Faisal, you ask a very, very good question. You say, why, and we have seen this, would a vulture fly off at an approaching lion or leopard, but perhaps not at a hyena? Faisal, you'll find that I think that the leopard and lion are that much faster than a hyena, and so they don't fly away. They will often give them greater distance, though, so they'll move further away. Because a leopard, for example, is extremely fast off the mark and could probably easily swat one of these things out of the sky should it want to and leap onto it as it took off. They're that fast. A hyena doesn't have that skill, and it also doesn't have claws, remember, so even if it does swat one of them with its paws, it's got claws, but they're like dog's claws. They're just used basically as running spikes. They're not going to do any damage. The cats are slightly different. Very, very fast to react, very, very fast, sort of off-the-mark speed, if you like, explosive speed. And I think that's why you'll find things like vultures give them a wider berth than they'd give this hyena. Hyena would really struggle, apparently, to catch one of these birds, but a lion or leopard at this distance would catch one of them very quickly. And I think the claws also obviously make a huge difference to that. Things seem to have calmed down slightly here. Oh, Toby, you're wondering about the skin and whether the vultures will eat that. No, they won't. They can't break it up. Remember, a vulture has no teeth, and so for them to break the tough leather of the skin of the wildebeest, it would almost need to be in a state of rotting. Then they could break off pieces small enough to swallow. I'm not sure that they can digest it. I don't know that they have the digestive juices capable of digesting leather. They might. Certainly the hyena does, certainly the lions and leopards do, but you will often find that the skin is left, especially in a place like this where there's an abundance of prey, and especially at a time of year like this when there is so much else to eat. So, you know, the hyena will eat the best bits and then move on. It won't eat all of the skin and all of the bones like it might in a place like Djuma, or in even a drier, less abundant place like the Kalahari. or any desert environment where absolutely everything will be utilized. Here, a lot of nutrients pass straight back into the soil to fertilize the next tussock of grass. We've spoken a lot about waste, actually, over the last little while, because we have seen predators killing things and then just leaving them and not eating them. And we always like to think of nature as being in some way balanced and in some way unwasteful. And it is, to a certain extent, because, of course, even if a wildebeest drops dead on the floor now or is killed by a lion and the lion doesn't touch it, its nutrients will eventually go into the soil and be used by grasses or even ants or something like that. As I look over the edge of the car, I'm watching some ants going to and fro at their business. And so those nutrients will be used. But I suppose that could be said for all sorts of things. And so even sometimes the scavengers don't, some carcasses are never eaten by scavengers. What? The ants. Here they are. And it is nice to think of nature not being wasteful, and I don't suppose that it is, because there is always something around that will make use of whatever is dead. Isn't that cool? We don't often have little ant stories. Ooh! Look, they've invaded another colony. They're carrying off eggs. I don't know what kind of eggs they are. These are these safari ants. Big, vicious, biting things. They're carrying off the eggs. Either they're moving nest. I don't think so, though. I think they've raided a nest. Those are termites. No, those are termites. They're carrying termites off. Oh, shame. I've never seen a termite win a battle. The termites are hammered by ants all the time. They've got these elaborate soldiers that always seem to be totally overcome by the ants. I find it very distressing. Never seen a termite win a battle. Well, this isn't going to be the first time. I believe that Taylor McCurdy is out, and I believe also that she is wearing something that might be described as miserable.
I have absolutely no idea what that link meant. Not even the small clue. Okay, anyways, we're driving through some very, very muddy terrain at the moment, hugging the escarpment. You'll see the escarpment in a minute. I just want to go around this corner and not fall off and into a lugger. It would be disastrous. We'll never be able to get out of one of those. We're searching for the sausage tree pride, and I don't know where okay. So we're going to clean our lens now. There seems to be some raindrops or something on there, so you're going to see a cloth come across your screen. There's Ferg. Hello, Ferg. A little bit of rain, apparently. So we're just around here, scanning about. I'm checking some of their favorite spots, but they don't seem to be here just yet. They're not on Lion Island, and they're not up on their favorite little kopie. Well, I can't see them. I'm just scanning as we talk here because I haven't had a proper look. So we're going to keep searching. They could really be anywhere. They could also be down closer towards the main road. So we'll do a couple of loops around this area, and then hopefully, we're going to find these cats, because I really would like to see them. Although we're in the vicinity of that cheetah too, with that has the den site around here. So that's also a possibility. So we'll just keep looking. I'm just in two minds. We might drive along the escarpment just for a little bit. There's not many animals around. I've seen one herd of zebras so far, a couple of duggar boys, some buffalo here and there. Other than that, it's pretty quiet up here. We might head to the river. Now, Jacqueline, you're wondering if this reserve will ever import other animals from other parks, or something along those lines, if they are running out because of predators. No, not here. Here it's a completely, let's not fall in the mud wallows. Here it's a completely natural system. So even with the rhinos, obviously we know rhino poaching all over Africa and all over the world. It's absolutely horrific. And everybody's doing their absolute best to stop it. And the Mara Reserve is one of the few places where rhinos weren't reintroduced. The population just managed to survive. So no, but what does happen in smaller game reserves, and particularly in South Africa. So South Africa at one point it became a big trend to own a game reserve and have land and reintroduce animals that would have occurred in that area. So on a reserve that I used to work at in the Eastern Cape, it was quite nice. They had this one really big section and they had general game on there and rhinos. They didn't have any elephants. They had hippos, they had hyenas and smaller predators that could come and go as they absolutely please. And on the other side of the reserve, which was the massive part, there were lions and all the rest of the animals and elephants and this, well, sort of the same thing. So they'd use one side to breed up the populations of animals, and then when they wanted to reintroduce new genes, they would do big game capture and capture 50 impala, 100 wildebeest or whatever, take them across to the predator side, let them live out their days there, and then they'd bring in new genes and breed it like that. So they almost were a self-sustaining reserve. But when you do have fences all the way around you have to manage it. You have to play God. You have to make sure that everything is stabilized. You don't want too many predators. You don't want too many herbivores because of overgrazing, all these different types of things. They don't have places to migrate naturally. So it's very important, and I think it's a very difficult thing to try and get that balance perfect. Out here, of course, it will be perfect because the animals are left to do their own thing, and that essentially is the best. But it's a good thing in the Eastern Cape in particular. What everybody's doing is they're taking the old farmlands and restoring them and allowing the natural vegetation to grow back again. So it's also a great thing. Unfortunately, the animals in that side of the world were heavily persecuted for hunting, obviously for people eating meat when Europeans started pushing through and traveling up and around the southern tip of Africa. But yes, I'm just checking around because I have seen this cheetah up here before. I'll just keep scanning for lions too. Now, Roshni, you're wondering when it comes to introducing animals into a reserve, how do they maintain a natural balance? And that's why you go and study these types of things. So depending on the size of your land, you'll be able to work out how many herbivores you can have, how many elephants you can have, how many lions you can have to try and sustain a good ecosystem. So you need to try and work out this for your specific piece of land and then go from there. You might, for instance, let's talk about Cape Town for a second. You don't really see any elephants or massive herds of zebras and things in Cape Town. That's just because there's no food available. The fynbos is not very palatable. It's obviously beautiful with all the flowers that produce, and the smells that you get from fynbos is just absolutely incredible, but you can't sustain it. So I know there's a reserve up in the Western Cape, and it's quite a large reserve. I think it's about 60,000 hectares if I'm not mistaken. Please don't quote me on this. And they have something ridiculous like I think 10 or 15 elephants, not a lot of elephants, on such a big piece of land, and that's just because that's the amount of elephants they can have for them to go about having enough food without feeling stressed. So it's of course very important. Let me just see. Now I can squeeze through here. So it depends on the vegetation. That will determine what animals you can have around and how many of them you can have too. Light's getting a little bit better now. It was a bit dark and gloomy at one point, which was not great. Now, Jacqueline, you basically said if the lions die out in the Mara, that's it. Well, that's a lot of lions, that are going to, have to die. Remember, it's massive. You haven't just got the Triangle, you haven't just got the Mara Reserve, you've got all the conservancies that are north of us, and then you've got Tanzania as well. You've got the Serengeti, you've got the Lemai, you've got all these different places that have these populations of animals, so they can move around wherever they want. So if there's a gap, it would be, if say in the Mara Triangle, something like anthrax broke out, it's just for example, and wiped out hippo populations and lions and lots of different things, then you might find then there's big gaps like what we've seen in Djuma. Like what, that's quite funny, I'll tell you now. Like what we saw in Djuma, the sad disappearance of Kruger, but all of a sudden, look at all the different leopards that have now moved into her territory. She had a rather large territory too. And it's provided a spot for young leopards, older leopards, to all move in and battle it out as to who is going to claim that piece of land now. So that's exactly what would happen here. If the pride lions wiped out, a new pride would move in. Or young males that have dispersed and haven't got anywhere to go, fearing for their lives of being taken out by other big males, they would move into spots like that. So I have to tell you something very funny now. Faith has just whispered into my ear that James is stuck. So James might be collecting the marshmallow pin from Jamie, because as you know, if you get stuck, you become part of the marshmallow club. And we were all teasing, we actually were teasing Brent yesterday, because we said he's talking and he's saying that he's not going to be the next one to get stuck. And I said, oh, I can't wait, I'm going to laugh when Brent gets stuck. And now it seems as though it's James. Will he get out? Is he stuck in mud, Faith? What is he stuck in? I'm quite curious to know now. So what's happened is sometimes, well, obviously what you'll see a lot. Okay, here's actually a great example. So you can see this. At one point, there must have been about 3 different tracks in front of us, but the water has gathered in these sort of mud wallows. So that could have started off as a bit of a road, and rats and that's now collected water, and warthogs and buffalo and things like that have come to wallow in it. So now we can't have a road there. Normally the road went on the right, but you can see, well, you can't drive there because you're going to slip into that mud wallow. And then on the left-hand side, everyone's tried to go around. And I think that's what's happened with James, and that's actually quite an easy thing, especially with the soil type. And it hasn't stopped raining. It poured with rain yesterday, and it actually rained right through the night, and only stopped raining just before the morning safari. So James might have thought, okay, here we go. We're not going to drive in these big ruts because we could sink right down to the chassis. Then you're not going anywhere. And it's a bit deceiving. You'll drive and you think, yeah, it's fine. And the next minute you just hit this sort of boggy spotting and get completely sucked into the grass. So let's hope that doesn't happen to us too. So James, good luck. I hope you get out. That's never fun. You know, it's one thing us getting stuck in Djuma, but getting stuck out here is a whole nother story. Oh, look. Okay, I'm going to wait for it, but it will get there. We'll get a view of it eventually. There's a tiny little terrapin that I just saw crawling around on the grass. Hello, little guy. There it is. That is so small. That's about the size of my hand, and I don't have the biggest hands at all. I'm not going to get out and show you. I'm not going to bother because it's actually stopped now. It's a little bit relaxed with us. It was desperately paddling, trying to get away from us. Don't worry, little guy, I saw you, so I'm not going to run over you. And an ant. Hello, ant. Look at those beautiful big eyes. Is the ant going to crawl onto... No, just carrying on. Maybe it wants to hitch a ride on the terrapin. Perhaps it wants to go for a swim. It does look like it's going to climb up to... So I think this little fella is making its way towards the mud wallow. It was obviously trying to move around, but you better move quickly because the day has broken and there are many raptors out here that would want to eat you. So it's still got a way to go. Will it be able to get there in time before a bird swoops down and tries to snatch it up? Now, I drink Coke. You're wondering if there's many terrapins in the Mara. Where is this little guy? I'm trying to point him out to you. Oh, there, you got him. Yes, there are. You just actually got to look for them because there's so much grass and the grass is quite tall. And again, we're just talking about those spots that are quite boggy and fill up with water. That's the perfect sort of habitat for a little terrapin like this. So you just really have to look. And always have to be very careful about the puddles that you drive through, even in the Sabi sand, because the little heads will be popping up and moving around. But that is so precious, don't you think? It's just sort of staring back at the camera. That is really lovely. So that's something we're looking out for. I'm hoping we're going to start seeing snakes on these sort of hot days that we'll hopefully get now after the rain. That would be an absolute treat. And the wind is starting to pick up. So the ground is going to dry fairly quickly today. I reckon by this afternoon, a lot of the roads would have soaked up all the water or it would have evaporated. But let's keep going. Terrapin, good luck with your adventure. I hope you make it to the mud wallow safely. But we will let you carry on. And maybe not, because I can't get the car to go. There we go. That's a little bit better. Bye-bye, little terrapin. It's going again. It was obviously freezing in terms because we were around, and now it has moved off. Where are these lions? Where is the cheetah? Where is an animal? Oh my goodness, every single person is unfortunately either stuck in the mud like James, or if you're Tristan, you've got a flat tire. That's unfortunate. Oh, hello, zebra. How are you doing? We'll have a look at you. Just 3 zebra going on a morning stroll. I think they might be heading towards another herd. There was one other big herd that I saw, but just moving amongst the grass. So it's amazing to sort of see how you have some of the bigger herds and then you see these smaller little parties moving through. But I'm sure they wouldn't want to be on their own, because 3 of them like this is actually quite, well, risky, because you don't have many eyes and ears to help spot the predators around you. We know that this is a favorite spot of the Sausage Free Pride, and a zebra is one of the animals that they take down on a regular basis. So they're marching along. They're actually moving very, very quickly. Maybe they've already had an encounter with some lions and they're not hanging around for very much longer. I think these are stallions, young boys. That's what they look like to me. It doesn't look like there's any mares here. They look like young fellas. These boys at the back in particular look like they're probably only a couple of years old, maybe 3 years old. They're not big and strong yet and not ready to mate just yet. There'll be some bigger, older stallions that will sort them all out, but they're marching along. I love the swagger that a horse or anyone in the Equus family has when they do their sort of quite a fast walk, the way that their mane sort of, well, I suppose a bit like my mane, when it moves around in the wind. Right, okay, bye zebra. Let's carry on. See what else we can find. A couple of topi here and there standing up on the termite mound, surveying the area. Sorry, Faith, please can you repeat that? Okay, I think I'm losing comms. I'm not sure who I'm sending you off to, but I'm sure it's going to be lots of fun.
Right. We have moved exactly 100 meters from where you last saw us. This is because the car broke down, and so Seb and I have been trying to push it. Luckily, we got about 5 meters from where we started. Luckily, 2 vehicles full of people from balloon safaris came and they helped us, and so we've just got going again. We haven't moved, we've hardly moved at all since we last saw you. Anyway, we're now on the way. Just can't turn the vehicle off unless we're on a fairly severe slope. So it goes out here in the wilderness. Thankfully there are lots of people out and about today. Now Taylor apparently was talking about me being in the Marshmallow Club. I don't know what a Marshmallow Club is. What is a Marshmallow Club? Oh, people who get stuck in the mud. I think Taylor must watch herself. I will admit that I have got stuck in the mud probably more than anyone else I know. But I have not got stuck in the mud since I've been in the Mara, as far as I can remember. No, I don't think I have, which is very unusual for me. So Taylor can go and, well, she can take her Marshmallow Club of the Mara and find a new member. I've certainly been part of Marshmallow Club everywhere else I've worked, but today, at least in this place, I have not been. This was not a mud problem, this was a battery problem. Taylor, how dare you? How very dare you? It's always a source of some shame when you are a member of the Marshmallow Club. Leo Smith said he thought I would be the first to get stuck in the mud here. I have not got stuck in the mud. This is live. Brent has been stuck in the mud here. He just hasn't been stuck live. Now, Roshni, you're wondering about the migration and whether it's different from other years. Roshni, I don't think it's I don't think it's very similar. You know, no 2 years are the same, they say. What is it? Wheel spanner? They say that they're different every single year, and I think that this year, certainly from our, we have an experience of 2 years of wild earth, and in the migration, we were only here last week for about 3 weeks, and we had a very, I think, normal year. The zebra came, the wildebeest came, the Thompson's gazelles came, and by the beginning of October everyone had gone back down south into the Serengeti. The rains fell as they kind of were supposed to fall. The long rains ended when they were supposed to end, and that was that. This year there's been a quite spectacular amount of rain during the dry season that we're in now. And I think that's changed things up completely. We've got huge herds of wildebeest streaming out of the Serengeti in Tanzania up into the Mara, which is rather strange for this time of year. We'd expect them to be going down south towards the Serengeti. So, things could change almost completely. And I read the other day that the birthing season of the wildebeest, which is in February, for the last 10 to 20 around Lake, but that's 10 to 12 years. Apparently it has not always all.
My goodness, not only is James getting stuck in mud, but the gremlins are taking away his signal too. Perhaps that's because of his comments towards me earlier. Oh no, wait, what is my fake laugh? I've been practicing. Yeah. What's your fake laugh, Ferg? Wait, let's stop. Let's hear it. You don't laugh. Ferg doesn't laugh.
I do nothing fake.
You do nothing fake. Oh, I'm going to remember that. When I catch... How about that evil laugh that you did yesterday? It was a good one. There you go. Ah, so funny. Right, so we're going to keep bumbling. So I've actually moved away from the escarpment now just because we were losing communication with final control, and that's kind of vital for what we do. So we've pushed away from it. I'm not sure where those lions are. They could honestly be anywhere. So I thought, okay, a little bit quiet up this way. Let's move our search down towards the river. So to the river we go, but first I'm going to show you a giraffe. Hi, giraffe. An absolutely beautiful giraffe. We're stopping to stare at the giraffe. The giraffe is stopping to stare at us. And on that note, Tristan, who should be a mechanic, or at least in the pit crew for, well, Michael Schumacher, he has changed his tyre. He's ready to go. Let's see what his plans are.
We have indeed. We had to change the tyre, but unfortunately our jack wasn't working properly, so that took VM and I a little bit of time just to try work out how to get the jack off the car, or the car off the jack, I suppose is a better way to put it. Eventually we just drove it off the jack because the jack mechanism didn't want to come down, so that's why it took us slightly longer to change our tyre, but now we're all good. Tyres are on, tyres are fine, and everything is beautiful. And it's such a wonderful morning. We've got, like I say, clear blue skies, the sun that's risen, and it feels like a wonderful day to be out and about in the bush, and everything feels clean and sparkly and fresh. So hopefully we will have some luck with something along the way. I believe the tracks for the male leopard, while we were changing the tyre, Aubrey followed those tracks, and those tracks go west along the power lines, and he says they're heading right towards Triple M. So I'm pretty sure Tingana has crossed already into Simambili side, but that's okay. We'll try and see if we can find maybe one of our other individuals around. We're going to go and check Treehouse Dam, Twin Dams. We'll just meander around and see what there is and see what's out here. There was no sort of audio for any lions last night that I could hear. I might have just been fast asleep, but I didn't hear anything, so I don't know if they're going to be around. But, well, we're just going to take it easy and enjoy the beautiful morning, and I would imagine that there's going to be a lot more happening out here over the next couple of days, because we've got green grass that's growing, which should hopefully attract some of the grazing animals, and, well, then we're going to get insects and all kinds of little bugs that are going to be coming out. Already I've seen quite a few butterflies over the last few days, which is fantastic news. There's going to be the migratory birds arriving back, so it's all going to be quite busy over the next little bit. So it's going to be fun just to explore and see what's going on. But there's definitely a green tinge to the bush now. You can see as we're driving on both sides of the road, there's a kind of a greener appearance, and there's little sprouts that are coming in between the brown grass, which is nice. Right, now, like I say, Treehouse Dam is where we're going to first go, just because, well, I just feel like going and seeing what's happening there. There's no real rhyme or reason to it. Also, it's a place where we tend to find quite a few animals going, and now that the sun is up a little bit, we're going to have a situation where it's probably going to get quite warm, and therefore it's going to be a lot better for animals to go down and drink. The night time is now gone, and you know, this sort of difficult part. Why are you alarm calling, squirrel? So there's a squirrel here that's a little bit on the upset side, but why? Just trying to look around to see if I can see any birds of prey. Often squirrels will alarm call when they can see birds of prey somewhere close by, or if they see some sort of sign of a predator. Of course, they're not the most reliable of animals. You find that these guys do alarm call sometimes at nothing, or maybe even each other, if there's an intruder in the area, so not the best ones to use. And you can see it's not going crazy either. It's had a few sort of shouts, and now it's decided that it's quite fine. And there comes another squirrel that's actually coming out of the marula lower down, so there's actually two of them there. Maybe that's why there was a bit of shouting going on. There's three of them actually, so they're all coming out now to enjoy a bit of sunshine. Is there a fourth one as well? No. Just three. I thought maybe I saw four, but it is a whole big family that is coming out and just going to, like I say, have a bit of a suntan early in the morning. There's a bit of stretching going on. Look at this one now, it's just relaxing. How cute is that? There's four. Yeah. Ah, nice. So this one is almost set itself out like somebody at the beach. It just needs a little towel, and then it can kind of lie down and relax. And I always love when they stretch their legs out like that, and it's as though they're just enjoying every little bit of that warm sunshine that's coming out. Remember, it's been quite cold the last few days, so it's quite nice to get a bit of sun. So Kate, you say so adorable. They are very cute, aren't they? They can be a bit of a nightmare in the camps and lodges, and Brent used to have eternal wars with the squirrels at Inga's because they often get in and they'll chew on everything, and they leave these little holes in everything that they go after, so they can be a bit tough. But when they're out here and they're open and they're sunning themselves like this, they are incredibly cute animals. But there we go, it's basically a tower of squirrels. There was a fourth one at one point that just poked its head out just now, but that one's disappeared. So we're going to leave our squirrel family to themselves and let them enjoy a little bit more of the sun and let them wake up in peace and quiet, and then we're going to try and find what else there is. I was hoping we'd see a few more birds out and about because it's after this rain, but so far not too much. Chastity, you're asking about rabies and does it affect the Mara as well as South Africa, and so I can't speak for the Mara side of things, but in South Africa rabies is a massive problem. So what we've got is we've got a situation where rabies is occurring in a lot of our animals, or a lot of domestic animals that are on the fringes of these reserves. They then, when they get the rabies virus, it causes them to become very disorientated, and that disorientation means that they then start to wander further and further away from their home, and that generally means into the game reserve. From there then they are either killed by various other animals, and they then fed on, and that's what then transmits this rabies virus. So rabies is a big problem here in South Africa, and particularly in the Kruger Park region. Interestingly enough, the Kruger Park and Sand Parks maintains that they haven't recorded a case of rabies in an animal inside the Kruger National Park, which I find very difficult to believe because a number of subjects have tested positive on the fringes and in the Sabi sands and Tumavati and those kind of things. There's been quite a number of them that have tested there. So I would find it very difficult to believe that the Kruger has no rabid animals, but apparently that's what they say, that they haven't found a rabid animal inside the Kruger Park yet. But basically we find a lot of it around the edges here, and there's been a couple of studies done, one by Mike Grover, who did a whole thesis on it. And he basically said that there's a massive amount of rabies right on the fringes of the park, and it's causing things like wild dogs, jackals. In fact, the jackal numbers declined massively because of it, and various other species that are prone to catching rabies, getting it, and then their numbers declining. So it is a problem. In the Mara side of things, I would imagine that they would have a similar situation. Anywhere where you've got domestic animals that are carriers and they then infect wildlife, you're going to have an outbreak of rabies in those areas. So it's something that is really on the minds of a lot of people. I know in this area a lot of the vets are doing a lot of work with the communities to try and vaccinate rabid dogs, and also to get vaccinated against distemper. So it is a big push, and they are aware of the growing threat as communities expand on the edges of these areas, how rabies is becoming a bigger and bigger problem. But hopefully we won't see any sign of that for a while. They've just graded all the fences on the western side of Sabi Sands, and that means that dogs should be more difficult for them to get inside here, which hopefully means that rabies is not going to be passed on to too many other animals in this particular section, but obviously can come from other areas as well. So we just have to monitor and make sure, and that's why they have a station where they'll get rid of any dogs that are in the area, whether they're rabid or not. But mine apparently is a little bit on the unstable side, so while I just meander towards Treehouse Dam, let's go back to Taylor McCurdy and see what her plans are for the morning.
We're still slowly venturing back towards the river, but you can't forget how far it is sometimes and how much space we have to move around on. It's amazing. Last time I drove this particular route that sort of cuts through from the escarpment back down towards the river, we should pop out near Hippo Pool somewhere, and it was an amazing road. There was a leopard here, there was the sausage tree pride hunting giraffe, we also had a cheetah. I mean, it was super busy, but that does not seem to be the case at all today, but that's fine. I don't know how much rain and sort of the other side of the reserve is having, or what the conservancies are having. I know James seems to have managed to get wet every single afternoon. I'm sorry, James. That's never fun. And hopefully there's nothing happening in Tanzania, because if there's no rain there, I mean, you've seen how quickly the reserve changed color. A couple of weeks ago, this was bright green, and now it's sort of, faded to a more of a yellowish color, and then in the next couple of days, it'll greenen up again. So maybe that's going to encourage all the animals to come back this way, and they're slowly coming back. When we get a chance again, we will go quite far west towards the Tanzanian boundary and give it a bash around there and see what's happening. And I think we might be in luck. Obviously there's quite a few cheetah down there. It'd be nice to follow them again. So I'm gonna have what am I trying to say now? What did I want to say? Oh, I want to say, I wonder who's going to find the first ostrich nest. That's going to be exciting. And I wonder where it's going to be. Because I feel like if it's on the other side of the reserve, in where James is, it's going to be quite easy to spot an ostrich nest, because those big white eggs are going to stand out in the very, very short grass. Whereas here, the grass is still relatively long, and those nests will be concealed. You won't really be able to spot them too well. That's where walking comes in, and you'll be able to spot things easier. But I think on the other side of the reserve, we're going to have the best chance. So that's going to be quite cool. Lots of tracks on the road, but it's mainly just from hyenas running up and down, going to look for things to eat. There's not an animal. Oh, there's a warthog. We'll get a better view now. Now, Heather, you're wondering, before I show you the warthog, well, I'm going to try and stop here, and then we'll show you the warthog, and then Heather, I will answer your question, which is, what is my favorite part about being a guide? Ooh, there's too many things, I'm afraid, to just pick one. No, warthog, don't run behind the bush. There you go, just running in the distance. I think my favorite part about being a guide is the fact that I get to come out here every single day. This is my office. I wake up not going, I'm going to be stuck in traffic? Am I going to have time to stop and get a coffee? Oh, I wonder if Susan's going to be in the office again. I'm just teasing. I don't know. I feel like people who work in offices, there will always be one person that you're not too fond of, and then you're stuck there. You're stuck in four walls. You can't get away. I can get away. I've got all the freedom in the world out here. So I think that's one of my favorite things, is that I've got big wide open space and I get to have amazing interactions with a variety of African animals, and also the fact, but that's not just about being a guide, the fact that working on Safari Live is that I can have chats with a lot of you that unfortunately might not ever come on a safari, and get to sort of give you my input about Africa. So there's many different things. I'm of course very much a social person and a people's person, so I quite enjoyed the whole guiding aspect. I loved hosting my guests for however many days they would stay, from not just in the vehicle, but taking them on bushwalks, sitting for dinners, breakfasts and lunches, and getting to know them. And it's also really quite nice. Not for everybody, but it definitely was for me. And then I'm constantly surrounded by people as well. I don't like to be alone. I've discovered this about myself. I don't like it. I get bored really easily, too easily. Even being off, not going on a game drive in the afternoon, because there's so many of us up here in the Mara. We're rotating quite a bit. Yesterday afternoon, I was sitting in final control my off afternoon, watching half the show, going, I'm bored. What am I going to do now? I wish I was on safari. I wish I was with the elephants. So that is my life. I think Scott's a bit like that too, where he just can't sit around and do nothing. Very, very, very fidgety. Well, I'm very, very fidgety. Oh, we're getting closer to the river line, which is quite exciting. So we're getting there. I can start to see the big tree line now. Hopefully we're going to have something waiting at the water's edge. James, of course, is still in Kenya. He hasn't gone anywhere else. He's bumbling about, perhaps. Well, I don't know what he's going to find for you, whether it's a cheetah or a lion, maybe a leopard.
No.
Oh, I've just switched the car off, which was a mistake. We are on a slope, though, don't worry. Shall we just try and start it again quickly, see if it works? It's okay, we're okay. Phew! Okay, sorry, we keep losing signal, breaking the car, losing radio communications. Anyway, there we have a vulture sitting on his own. He's a Nigel no mates. And the reason I wanted to stop in this particular area was that we got a magnificent, I think, shepherd's tree in front of us. No, it's not. It's a giant gardenia with gardenia flowers on it. That is deeply exciting to me. We're going to go over there and have a sniff at them, aren't we? Let's go and see. And while we drive gently down the slope, I'm going to ask Seb to pan off to the left and just show you the quite gobsmacking abundance of animals there. I'll stop. Hundreds of thousands of wildebeest have come back north into the Masai Mara. It really is quite something. Let me stop here. Is that not amazing? And also, yeah, I think we're going towards those cars over there. There's a great gathering of vehicles, which tells me one thing. In the Masai Mara, cheetah. We're going to try and make our way round to the great gathering of vehicles. I can see. You see them there, Seb?
The vehicles.
Yeah. There they are. I'm pretty sure there's a cheetah sitting next to that lot. And so we'll head across that way. That was our plan for the morning. But first we're going to have a little snifter. And not a snifter, that's a drink. We're going to have a sniff at these gardenia flowers. I'm hoping that our signal should maintain. I'm pretty sure I can see camp from here. A little comms test, if we can have one. Oh, we have a comms. Now, can I get into a position where I can smell this glorious flower? Yes, I can. Okay, here we go. Can't wait for this. These are my favourite smelling flowers, and they don't last long. They go from white to yellow in no time at all. I'm going to pick this one because it's a yellow one, which means it's about to die. There's some things in the world that make you feel that all is okay with life, and the smell of a gardenia flower is one of those things. Seb, would you like a smell?
Wow.
Mm-hmm.
I wish they could make a perfume for ladies.
Yes.
Out of this.
Chitty Chatty Meg, you say the smell of a gardenia must be one of the best smells in the world. It certainly is. I'm going to keep that with me. Gorgeous, gorgeous tree. This is the biggest gardenia I've ever seen, by some margin. Luckily there isn't a leopard in it, as I just kind of climbed up into it without worrying. And oldie farming, you thought something might pop out of the tree. Well, I was a little worried about that, but it seems that nothing is going to pop out of the tree just yet. Merveilleuse! On we go. Through the swathes of wildebeest life. I think our picture is jumping up and down. Sorry about that, as are our communications. They should be much better when we get further to the north of the reserve today, which is what we are doing. And all of these plains now are very short, and I'm still wondering if perhaps the Thompson's gazelles aren't going to come in here. We're losing comms and probably picture. Let's head back across to Tristan in South Africa.
Well, still a fairly quiet morning. Nothing going on. Hyena dens are not active, according to the guys. So now we're just trying to meander along, looking for any signs of anything, really. It would be nice to catch up with some ellies as well, see if there isn't any sign of Thandi. So that's why we're on this little Ingwe alley, because this is where she was heading last night when we lost her. She came into this drainage and was walking this direction. There's a little prey animal for Thandi, though. I wonder if it's going to stay there. You see it there, Via. There's a little duiker that's sitting underneath a guarri tree, and this is the perfect kind of prey items for Thandi. And yesterday she was looking a little bit on the skinny side. She looked as though she could do with a meal. But what was really interesting is that her stomach was sagging in a different area, and I wonder if she's not just starting to show signs of potentially being pregnant. I don't think it's confirmed yet, but Tux and I were talking about it yesterday when we saw her, is that there is a definite little bulge low down that is different to when they have been feeding. When they've been feeding, you tend to find that the whole stomach kind of rounds out, but when they've got cubs, it tends to be a little bit lower down, and it tends to be a little bit of a different shape. So it looks as though she's almost starting to show signs of being pregnant, which is very interesting, because we know that she mated with Tingana, well, about 3 months, or 2 months ago. Was it about 2 months ago that she was mating with Tingana, maybe a little bit longer? And so I wonder if it's potentially that took, and she actually does have a little one growing inside. It'll be interesting to see. I didn't get to see her properly enough to really confirm it, but we'll hopefully get her at some point soon, and we can then confirm whether she does indeed have little ones. It'll be crazy if she does, and be really good news, because hopefully she will be spending a lot more time on Djuma and is going to have some sort of sign of having cubs here. That would be the best situation. If she had cubs somewhere in the Mulawati, that would definitely go a long way to keeping her around this area. And well, for us it would be a fantastic situation, because we'd see a lot more of her, and who doesn't like little leopard cubs as well on top of that. Now you can see why we lost her quite quickly. This vegetation on both sides of the road here is not very easy to follow a leopard in. You've got a situation where it's very dense and thick, and it's only going to get worse now with this rain that we've had. It's going to thicken all of this up, and it's going to become very tough to find any sign of a cat inside there. So it was really not easy to follow her, and that's why we just let her go on her way. Also, at the end of the day, Byron had Tingana by then, so it wasn't too much of a stress to let her carry on with her day. I'm just checking very carefully as we're going, because I'm hoping that she's crossed somewhere onto one of the roads that I can pick up her tracks, because I haven't found any tracks coming out. And the way she was moving yesterday, I didn't think she would settle down in this area. I thought she was going to try and kind of come out and move towards quarantine side, but there's no tracks going out there. There's no tracks that I can see on Twin Dams. Let's just check. So it's always good to check watery sources like what I have on my right hand side. So you can see these are all puddles that we haven't had for a very long time, and a cat is rather going to drink out of something like this than it would out of Twin Dams or Treehouse Dam at the moment. The risk of crocodiles and various other things is a lot less, and at the end of the day they don't have to walk nearly as far, and that's why we're not seeing Hosanna and Tamba hanging around the dams like they were last month. You've got a situation where they're going to be in the bush now, and they're going to kill and then meander to small puddles like this and drink there. But it's always worth checking these puddles as you go, just to see if there isn't a footprint for one of the cats drinking out of them. Often you'll find them little pug marks in the mud, and so it's a good idea just to have a little check and see that potentially there isn't any sign of them drinking out of those when going through these areas. Thandi, where did you go? This is the exact spot where I last saw her, which was just on the bank here. So I just want to double check she didn't come back this way and cross over this side. Doesn't look like it. Looks like she's potentially just carried on in that drainage, which from there is anyone's guess where she's gone. Maybe she's still inside this drainage somewhere. We'll have to just spend some time in the area and also listen out, and maybe we'll get lucky with something somewhere around here. The important thing is just to go slowly and to listen out as you go. Even though we have the noise of the engine, you can often still hear alarm calls and hear impalas shouting or kudu or whatever the case may be as you go along. So I wonder where she would have gone. The other interesting thing yesterday afternoon is she didn't stop to drink at all. The whole afternoon she was moving from her track. She didn't drink at any of the puddles. So I would have thought, because of the sort of heat of yesterday, that she would have stopped and drank somewhere, but alas, she just kept going. The impalas in front tend to suggest that we don't have any leopard anywhere close to us at the moment. They all look fairly relaxed, and they're making use of this nice little green tinge that is coming through. So you'll find the impalas are going to shift their diet quite heavily from leaves and grass, branches and those kind of things, to going after grass now. They're going to try and get the greenest of the grass, that as it's growing, that's going to be the sweetest and best tasting grass. Right, now while we consider and think about where we're going to go next, let's go back to Miss McCurdy, who has got, well, some of the baboon type of creatures that hopefully aren't running amok like they do here in South Africa.
No, they're not running amok. They're actually just doing what baboons do for a change. And this is one of the greatest scenes. You can see, look how they've plonked themselves on top of little termite mounds. Perhaps they're little seat warmers, getting the warmth from the termite mound. Now, my favorite thing to see in Zambia, in the Lower Zambezi National Park, because there were huge termite mounds, was to watch the baboons sit up there. And then it was a common joke, a loo with a view is what we would say. But up there, like I said, the mounds were magnificent, and they had lots of different chimneys and things popping out of it. It's a good spot. Of course, we know it makes an amazing vantage point, but also for baboons to just sit and stare and sort of watch around their day. But that's a boy, in case you haven't worked it out. That's a big male olive baboon. He's looking awfully fluffy. Perhaps it's because he got his hair wet and it's now frizzy, so he'll need to dry out and visit the bush salon James, maybe. Why do I remember something about Salon James? We'll have to ask him about that. I can't remember exactly. It may have been from last year or so. I might have to go and visit Salon James too to get my hair done. But he is absolutely beautiful. Oh yes, he cut Sam's hair. That's exactly what happened. Now, thank you very much for that, Faith. I'm sure Kirst would have let you know about that. That's exactly why he's become Salon James. Very, very nice. Maybe we'll let him have a go at my hair. No, we will not. No one will touch my hair unless you are a professional hairdresser. But he dried off quite quickly. I'm sure they would have sought shelter last night amongst the trees, try to keep out of that torrential downpour. When it rains hard like that, the animals really don't enjoy it. And it was quite interesting. It was the most amazing thing. When I was sitting in this James's studio and just guarding it, I was having a look around and looking through the mountain cam, and I noticed all of a sudden all these birds, from auger buzzards to the various vulture species to some kestrels, they were all taking flight trying to get above the storm. But there were so many of them. I couldn't believe how many birds were really trying to get away. And I don't think I've ever seen that before. But they caught those thermals so quickly. And I mean, the storm was it really flew through yesterday afternoon with the wind pushing it from behind. And they managed to get above it before they got wet, which I thought was very clever. And then as soon as the rain passed, they came back down again. But there's a whole troop of them. They are scattered all over this little marshy section back towards the river line. They'll be feeding, probably be picking fruits from the trees if they are. And then at the moment, with all the green grass, getting all the green sprouts. Now, Papi, you're wondering if I know what the collective noun for a group of baboons is. It is typically called a troop of baboons. But again, we've been doing collective nouns over the last couple of days. If you can come up with something better, great, share it with us. Remember, baboons can actually be quite naughty, and they terrorize, especially in South Africa, they terrorize tourists around all the hotspots. So like Cape Point is a big one, around Table Mountain. They're an absolute nightmare, and there's lots of places and all over South Africa, and I'm sure throughout Africa too, where they figure out they love lodges, of course, because they know that they can go through and have a free fall and eat sugar and steal fruit and cheese and, well, your bikini top and shoes every now and then. Those sometimes go missing too, courtesy of the baboons. And that one's doing a bit of yoga. That is an impressive stretch. I don't think I could do that. No, Ferg? Do you think you could pull a move like that? Just sort of, no, it's difficult, hey? My goodness, that's incredible. Well, the flexibility of these animals are, well, it's always amazing. Even when a buffalo puts its back leg behind its ear to have a scratch, that's impressive. But just making sure that there are no parasites on its legs, any ticks, any little fleas and things like that. And then, well, it's also a tasty snack, so a little bit of protein here and there when you do find an insect on you. They all look like they're half asleep, though, like they haven't quite woken up just yet. Chilly. Yeah, they'll be warming up soon. It is starting to warm up now. It's quite nice. The sun, I think, will eventually burn through the clouds. And I think we're in for a lovely day. But actually, have a little listen, because the chorus around here is quite beautiful. Yep. Oh. Yeah, the baboons. Crazy, eh? So, and here the hippos as well. But that's the hippos. But that screeching, that's from the baboons, and it's obviously the youngsters getting a bit excited. Or maybe an older one is sort of tugging the arm of a younger one, and that was the youngster sort of shouting out and about, saying, I don't like that very much. It's not uncommon, though, to hear shouts coming from troops of baboons. There's often lots of domestics. Now, Gina, you're wondering if these baboons cover themselves in urine like other primates do. I've never seen a baboon covering itself in urine or feces. Oh, watch this. Oh, you didn't even open your mouth properly for us. I was hoping I was going to be able to show you their beautiful canines. So no, I've never seen baboons or vervet monkeys or even some mango monkeys doing it before. I have yet to see a Sykes monkey. We'll get there eventually. So no, they don't do that at all. I've actually never even heard of that. I didn't know that other primates did that, to be honest. But we're quite limited to what we have in South Africa, and I haven't really travelled to other parts of the world where there are different primates. But that's not all we have. We even have a hippo this morning. How's this? There's actually a lot of animals, from starting off with absolutely nothing to it turning out to be a fiesta of animals. Oh no. Yeah, there's the big round bottom. Oh, I believe a couple of you have come up with some creative sort of terms to call a troop of baboons. Sun farmer, that's great. You've said a martini of olive baboons. Very, very smart. Perhaps you're sipping on a martini as we speak. A babble of baboons from Carly. That's a good one too. They do chatter. Oh, we've just heard them talking quite a bit. They do make quite a racket, don't they? Ooh, I like. At Madeep, you said that savage of baboons. I quite like that one. That one definitely works quite well. Oh my goodness, the vehicles are now starting to roll in. Obviously everybody's woken up. Maybe they got a late start due to the rain. But let's carry on. We're going to try and sneak past some of these cars that are coming towards us. I think we're going to do the river drive today. I think that's going to be our plan. And we're going to hug the Mara River, check a couple of the crossings, see how they're doing. And I'm going to wait for this car to go past. Oh, no. Come on, please stay in here. Sorry, I'm having a moment where I thought I wasn't in gear, but I was. Okay, let's go past the cars. Let's go and check. Because all the animals are starting to come back, there's of course a possibility I will run you off the road. I'm just joking, that was very rude of me. But the last time I pulled off too far off the side of the road, I ended up getting stuck in the drainage line. I'm not going to have that happen again because I probably won't get out of the drainage lines these days because of all the slush that we have at the moment. And yes, it's not fun, and I don't want to be part of the Marshmallow Club just yet. It's inevitable. I'm sure I'll get stuck and I'll take it in my stride, but it's going to be on my own accord that I get stuck for making a bad decision. We're just passing Hippo Pools now. That's on our left-hand side, so we know we're going to go on the next road. I'm so sorry, Faith, I can't hear that name. Amka, there we go. Amka, you're wondering, with there being so few trees in the Mara, isn't the ground susceptible to erosion after the rain? You're 100% correct. So, and I've actually noticed that quite a bit on the banks of the rivers. So if we do get to the banks of the rivers, maybe we can find some sections where you'll see that the banks are just totally collapsing because there's nothing holding the soil down. There's a fair amount of grass cover here though, so grass will also keep the soil in place. So you don't necessarily just have to have trees. There's lots of little annual forbs that are popping up. Again, they will help keep everything intact. But I've mainly noticed the severe erosion along the Mara River itself. And when it floods, you can imagine the banks will collapse. The river gets wider and wider as it goes along. Well, we can look here. Let's see. I don't know how great the demonstration it's going to be. Nah, it's not really that nice. But yeah, as we drive through this little area here, you can see there isn't much grass growing here, so this will most certainly be susceptible. We have big rains, the soil, or the topsoil will just be completely washed away, and that's absolutely no good. And then there's a really big lugger system, a big drainage line coming over here. I'm just trying to see, but you can see the grass in this spot's quite good. Hello, spur-wing lapwing. And if we look into it, you can see that a lot of the grasses are actually growing down and on the sides of the lugger systems. If only it was like that on the Mara River. So that'll be holding into place, but you can still see where the soil has just completely given away and collapsed completely. So that's pretty good. That's quite nice. That'll hold it into place. But as soon as you go further along to the left, or it just depends, if you want to the right, you can see how there's just almost these little pockets of soil with nothing else around them, and that's because everything else has just collapsed completely. So yes, I'm just trying to think though. We see a lot of erosion in the Sabi sand as well. Well, definitely down in the south, I noticed quite a bit of it. Again, along the river lines. But there we go. But we're not far from the river systems now, so we're going to keep going. Right, let's go. See what we can find. So, very, very quiet this side, but that's okay. I feel like our luck is going to change. James, however, is driving through an abundance of animals.